Meanwhile, you've had Republicans accusing Biden of being bought and paid for by the UAW.
Are they wrong?
Let's hope not. Let's hope not. So let's play some extraordinarily exciting scenes from a UAW picket line, the first president in American history to walk a striking picket line. Let's roll this. You can't, you got to squint a little bit to hear this, but here's Biden kind of missing the bullhorn a little bit at the picket line.
Lines when I was a senator since 1973, but I tell you what, first time I've ever done it as a president. Folks, look, one thing is real simple, and to be very brief. The fact of the matter is that you guys, the UAW, you saved the automobile industry back in 2008 and before. Made a lot of sacrifices, gave up a lot, and the companies were in trouble. But now they're doing incredibly well. And guess what? You should be doing incredibly well too. It's a simple proposition. Stick with it, because you deserve the significant raise you need and other benefits.
Let's get it.
Let's get back what we lost, okay? We say them, it's about time them to step up for us. Thank you.
What I was struck by, beyond just the imagery of the president out there on the picket line with the workers, is that at the end there he says, let's get back what we lost, using the word we, talking about the workers. And he's talking about how in 2008, during the financial crisis, the UAW gave up extraordinary concessions in order to just not go completely bankrupt. Like bankruptcy, and not the kind of fake bankruptcy, but like real bankruptcy was like on the table. Like that was a real possibility. And they made all of these sacrifices. And so he's saying, we need to win that back. And to have a president say, we, in relation to the rest of these workers rather than you, was a unique sign of solidarity from a president to actual striking workers. What did you think of that? Theater or a real shift in the role of the presidency?
I mean, it was good theater, a rare moment of good theater from the Biden presidency.
Kept it short, which was good for him.
Kept it short.
Yeah.
So here's more from him. He said, quote, stick with it. You deserve the significant raise you need and other benefits. And he got some...
Put up A2 here while you're reading that.
Yeah, he got some additional headlines because a reporter shouted a question to him where the reporter asked specifically about a 40% pay raise. And Biden just responded to the question of whether workers deserved it. He said, quote, yes. This is, you can see that up on the screen as well. So whether or not, I mean, I think Biden is entirely sincere in this, I think, and that's very typical of Democrats, especially from his era when union support meant something. I mean, that is the core of the Democratic Party when he's coming, and especially where he's from, when he's coming into office and is coming into power politically. So I think he's entirely sincere in his sentiments towards unions, and I think you definitely saw that very, very clearly yesterday. It is interesting, on the other hand, that speaking of, we were just kind of talking about this in the China segment, the sort of different polls pulling him in different directions, and this happens in every presidency. But it's been interesting, the sort of green agenda that Biden's implemented, the electric vehicle mandate that came from an executive order, those things are in tension, and those are explicitly in tension according to the union. And Biden didn't address that yesterday. No big surprise there. But it is interesting to see a Democrat from like Joe Biden, from his era and his kind of democratic politics, then be the administration to implement some of these green priorities that the unions are obviously not stoked about.
Yeah, and later he stuck around to watch Shawn Fain, the UAW president, speak to that same gathering of workers. He's got another work. I don't think we have the clip here, but he's got a worker, got his arm around her, and he's talking about how we're going to beat corporate greed. The thing that beats corporate greed is a united working class, and Biden's like pumping his fist, like, what? This is the Democratic Party?
Yeah.
What? Wow. Okay. And I think politicians would rather do that. Like, just as human beings, like, if you can be a politician and you can either kind of be corrupted by big money, or you can be corrupted by thousands of workers cheering for you, you'd rather have thousands of, just as a human, you'd rather have thousands of workers cheering for you. Now, it's nice to be rich and, be bought off, like, and be an oligarch, like all of those things are great. But I do think that there is a wind at the back of that kind of movement if you can get it going. Like you have to be able, and you're seeing at the same time. Yesterday it was reported. You see this that the private equity industry is moving all its money to the Republicans this coming cycle because they're so frustrated by Gensler and other Biden regulators, and they think that Democrats are like getting taken over by Bernie-crats, and it's just not fair. Private equity can't get a hearing outside of Josh Gottheimer anymore, and it's like good, polarize that. Like good, fine, yeah, let's have that fight.
Well, and it's a time when Republicans are like at odds with the Chamber of Commerce, and that's a very real.
Where will private equity go?
Well,
so sad.
It's actually, I mean, because private equity, again, I mean, we've seen different things like ESG is a huge issue of contention between Republicans and some of these really big business interests. And I don't know. I mean, there's a real question of if those big business interests that thought they had actually found a new home in the Democratic Party, it wasn't just that they thought, oh, we're souring on Republicans. It was actually they felt really comfortable with Democrats. If they now feel uncomfortable with Democrats, and that's a wedge that drives them back to Republicans, there's a lot of incentives on the table for Republicans to be friendly with those interests again. And we'll talk about this later in the show in my block, because Republicans like actually really can't afford to do that with their voters, because sentiments have soured on Wall Street to another degree with Republican voters. But union sentiments, even among Republican voters, and in the poll I'm going to talk about later today, it's something like 40% of Republicans are favorable towards unions, let alone the broader public. This is not a time to be going after unions.
Yeah, and this exact fight that you're talking about is playing out within the Republican Party in tonight's trip by Trump out to what a lot of the media is describing as a talk to the UAW or to like unionized workers, or saying he's visiting the picket line. None of that is true, and it's interesting.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.
Help us build independent news and get the full show every morning at breakingpoints.com.